2020 will be remembered for many things, and the weather should be one of them. A lot happened, new records were created, and now more than ever it's vitally important that we accurately measure our weather so that we can use our extensive archive and database to monitor how our climate is changing. OK, let's have a look back at the year, starting in January, which was very mild. The sixth mildest in records going back to 1884. With an average temperature of 2 Celsius above the most recent climate mean. Following on from that came February. February was an incredible month. Remember those storms that just kept on coming almost every weekend? We had Kira, we had Dennis, we had Storm Jorge, and all of them brought huge amounts of rainfall. And by the end of the month, it was the wettest February on record. And despite only being 29 days in length, it was the fifth wettest of any calendar month. So that's the fifth in a list of almost 1,900 months. Many places recorded 3 times their average rainfall for February. And this very wet month is also part of a trend of seeing wet months. In the past 11 years alone, we have had the wettest April on record, the wettest June on record, November and December, and now February. That very wet February was also a big influence, obviously, in making the winter particularly wet. Winter being the months of December, January and February. The fifth wettest on record and the fifth mildest. Consistent with climate changes, we are expecting our winters to become wetter. The weather then lurched dramatically. As the UK went into lockdown, the sun became very much unlocked. Spring, so that's the months of March, April and May, was the sunniest we have ever recorded in a national series spanning over 100 years. Amazingly, spring was sunnier than most summers. Only 3 summers have seen more sunshine than last spring. With all that sunshine, it's not surprising that it was also a warm season, the 8th warmest on record and the 5th driest. April was individually the sunniest April on record, and so was May. In fact, May may possibly have been the sunniest month ever recorded, beating the previous record of June 1957, but it is very, very close. After all that sunshine in spring, summer was much closer to average, but it still featured some very wet spells and some very warm spells. Overall, it was wetter, warmer and duller than average across the 3 months, but there were some notable periods of interesting weather. The hottest day of the year, well, that fell right at the end of July, the 31st. Reached 37.8 Celsius at Heathrow. That's the 3rd warmest day on record for the UK, following on from the warmest day on record in 2019. But it was August that saw the longest spells of heat, particularly for England and Wales. We recorded 34 Celsius or more on 6 consecutive days, and there were 5 tropical nights. That's where the mercury doesn't fall below 20 Celsius. The frequency of tropical nights is expected to increase as our climate continues to warm. There were 2 named storms in the month as well, an unusual occurrence, particularly to have 2 such intense systems so close together. September then brought a sunnier and warmer than average month, but things shifted once more to soggy in October, particularly the start of October, and the 3rd of October in particular, where it was just incredibly wet. The wettest day on record. Enough rain fell in that 24-hour period to fill Loch Ness. And amazingly, now this year holds the 3rd wettest day because of Storm Dennis in February, along with the wettest day on record. October also gave us further storms, Barbara, and right at the end of the month, Storm Aidan, and they contributed to October overall being the 5th wettest October on record. Following that, November was notable for how mild it was, the 6th mildest on record, and many areas didn't have a frost until very late into the season of autumn. December has been wet and mild so far, although with some brief notable colder spells. Christmas Day, giving many of us a frosty start, for example. There's still a couple of days to go, so we don't know exactly where 2020 will sit, but it is going to be another very warm year. very likely to be in the top 5 warmest years on record. The top 10 warmest years for the UK as a whole have all occurred since 2002. It's also very likely to be in the top 10 for sunniest and wettest years. A truly remarkable year.